Hello, Gold Derby fans. Welcome back to another slugfest. We are going to talk about the whirlwind 48 hours we've had with PGA nominations, BAFTA nominations, and DGA nominations. I am Marcus James Dixon. I'm here with Zach Laws and Daniel Montgomery. So Zach, I'll come to you first. We have the PGA nominations, which basically is what we're expecting to happen at the Oscars. And then BAFTA comes along and completely upends everything. It throws shockers and snubs all over the place. And then comes along the DGA and they say, no, you were right the first time. Like you know what you're talking about. So what is your overall take from this past couple days?
Well, I mean, like you said, so BAFTA, we should note, changed the way that it nominated the actors and directors, and I don't think they changed it for the films. I mean, this is how confusing.
Yeah, it was casting as well. Casting, they did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what's so confusing about this whole thing. It's like they changed the voting in such a profound way that it's really difficult for us to look at those nominations and say that they have any real bearing on what's going to get nominated at the Oscars, right? I mean, there's a lot of not obscure to the Brits, but obscure to American audiences. A lot of British fare getting in there, which makes sense. It is, after all, the British Academy, but it's at the expense of things that we thought were going to be surefire contenders there. I mean, if you had asked me to go to Vegas and put money on who was going to win at BAFTA, I would have said Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman, Olivia Colman for The Father. Neither one of them got in, right? So you look at that and you say to yourself, well, does that mean that they're not getting in at the Oscars? Does it mean that they're not winning the Oscars? What does this mean? It might not really mean anything. So putting those aside, let's look at the PGA and the DGA, because I think that those are the two most important ones. Those are the ones with the most industry overlap, right? Mm-hmm. PGA generally gets in about, a significant portion, like 8 to 9, whatever they predict. And maybe there's like a wild card at the Oscars. This year, I think that they're going to be more of a solid indicator than usual. Just because of the number of films that are in contention, right? It's a little bit lower than usual because of a little thing that happened in the world. DGA is the one that I really want to focus on, because those are the 5 films, generally speaking, that we look at not for who's going to get nominated for Best Director, but which 5 films are the strongest contenders to win Best Picture. So over there, you've got Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman, Aaron Sorkin for Trial of the Chicago 7, David Fincher for Mank, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. Those are our 5 strongest Best Picture. 3 to 4 that are going to get nominated. Those are the wild cards. Those are the ones that are going to give us the hardest time predicting what's going to get in. There's a lot of possibilities.
And Daniel, I should mention that only 3 movies were nominated at all 3 in the top category. So that we're talking about the Trial of the Chicago 7, Promising Young Woman, and Nomadland. They got in for the PGA Best Picture, the DGA Best Director, and then BAFTA Best Picture. Did you want to add anything about just the overall craziness of BAFTA?
I will say that the acting and directing categories at BAFTA are a little misleading in that, because they're giving out by small juries, they're basically, those are basically the Gotham Awards, where you have like a handful of people making this decision. At the Gotham Awards, Nicole Beharie won Best Actress over Frances McDormand, in Nomadland, and Riz Ahmed beat Chadwick Boseman, and these sorts of things can happen when you have a very small group of people deciding this, and a very small group of people who are who have that pressure of, okay, it's just us evaluating this material, and it's much harder to kind of turn a blind eye to, like, to just vote for the front runners and vote for the things that you're familiar with. So I think we saw a lot of that in the acting and directing categories, but Best Picture was decided by the entire BAFTA membership. And it's probably no coincidence that that's the category that's mostly white. But I think that gives us a stronger sense than the acting or directing categories of BAFTA this year, who's strong, which is why one of the things that I feel like is going to be a mismatch with the Oscar, I did think that the father was flagging, and it didn't get in for Olivia Colman, but it got in for Anthony Hopkins, and it got in for a bunch of awards, multiple awards, that were not decided by those juries, including Best Picture. So I think it might be in the top 8 or 9 again for Oscars, even though it didn't get PGA or Directors Guild. Although Florian Zeller, I believe, was nominated for First Time Director.
He was, yeah, he was.
So I think The Father is stronger than it looked before. I think Trial of the Chicago 7 is solid. Nomadland is solid. Promising Young Woman, despite no Carey Mulligan at the BAFTAs, is as strong as ever because, I mean, there aren't going to be many, and historically there aren't many Best Actress winners that are also top Best Picture contenders and director contenders and editor contenders.
And screenplay.
And screenplay contenders.
Could win screenplay.
Yeah. So even though like Best Actress has been all over the place all season, I feel like Carey Mulligan is still looking good there, and the film is looking fantastic in terms of its potential. So yeah, I do think the Best Picture race at BAFTA is more telling than it looks because all of the other categories are so weird.
The Producers Guild nominations, I just wanted to mention the 10. Those are Borat, Judas and the Black Messiah, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, One Night in Miami, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Now, our odds say that The Father and News of the World will get in, the Gold Derby overall combined odds. What do you guys think? Do you think the PGA 10 are going to match up with the Oscar 10, or which ones are most vulnerable here? I'm personally not predicting Borat will get in, but I don't know. What do you think, Zach?
I think so they never match up 10 for 10, and there are always these surprises. I think that all right. So I like I said, the 5 at DGA, those are pretty much locked, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
After that, I think that the next strongest contender is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, just because it is, a front runner for Chadwick Boseman and possibly Viola Davis. This Best Actress race is pretty wild, so
and it's going to do well in crafts.
Very well in crafts. I mean,
Yeah,
it could possibly win
costumes and makeup and hair, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it'll probably get in for production design as well. Sound. This is a really strong contender. Writing, I should also say. So mark that in as your 6th place. And where it starts to get weird, I feel like One Night in Miami is starting to fade a bit. Yes, Regina King got nominated for First Time Director, but considering how many TV people vote at DGA, it is kind of surprising that she didn't make the top 5. I actually had her getting in over Emerald Fennell at DGA, not at Oscars. And the fact that the movie has been kind of, it's not performing well in craft categories, despite being a period film. It's not, it didn't get a Globe's Best Picture nomination. I could see that being a weaker contender and possibly being left off in picture and just getting in for Leslie Odom Jr. in supporting actor in song and possibly screenplay. 2 movies that I think are really surging at the right time are another Amazon title, Sound of Metal, which could be, we're already expecting nominations for Riz Ahmed and sound and film editing. Look out for it in supporting actor for Paul Raci, screenplay, and best director for Darius Marder. This is a very, when you think about the tools that directors use, taking away dialogue and in a lot of cases sound, and just relying on visual storytelling is something that I think could appeal to a lot of the members of the director's branch. So that's one film.
He just got in for First Time Director too, we should mention. Darius did.
Exactly, yes. I mean, that definitely helps his chances. The other film that is overperforming after kind of opening a bit softly is Judas and the Black Messiah. Again, a movie that we all thought was going to be a strong contender for one actor, Daniel Kaluuya. But now we really got to look at, this is a film that got in at the PGA and the WGA, performed well at BAFTA, even getting in for Dominique Fishback. Look out for her in supporting actress. So, I think that those three, Ma Rainey's Sound of Metal, Judas and the Black Messiah, could round out our 8 and possibly put in The Father as your number 9, just because of support for Anthony Hopkins, Olivia Colman, screenplay, film editing. That's what I'm going with right now. It's very, it's very hard for me to say this, but I don't know how big of a contender The Five Bloods is going to be at this point. It did get that SAG Ensemble nomination.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to write it off completely.
No Producers Guild, though.
No Producers Guild, no Writers Guild, no Directors Guild. Like, my heart tells me that there is a possibility that Spike Lee could still get nominated for directing as like that 5th slot surprise, which we have seen happen before. But it does feel like the movie has faded. I hope that I can be surprised, but the fact that I think the one nomination it got at BAFTA was for Clark Peters.
Yeah.
Which is strange. I mean, he's great in the movie. I'm glad he got nominated, but I feel like it's perhaps become an afterthought, and that's a shame because it is one of the best movies of the year. And I would nominate it over, I'm not going to say which films, but are films I would nominate it over in this Best Picture lineup.
So Daniel, what about your personal Oscar predictions for Best Picture? Where do they match up and where do they differ from the PGA noms?
Well, I would agree with Zach that those top 5 directors are, their pictures are in Nomadland, Trial of the Chicago 7, Minari, Mank, and Promising Young Woman. Although I'd say Mank is starting to feel a little bit soft too. Like there seems to be a lot of, it seems like it's getting in everywhere. So it seems like that could be your Irishman of the year, where it gets everything and then wins nothing, potentially. Although it has been consistently winning production design, so that's the
one thing I think it'll
safest bet at the moment. So I think those are probably in. I think Ma Rainey is strong, but I don't know if that's like 6th place because I'm always so nervous about, like, especially when there are like multiple Black movies. It's like, like a lot of times the Oscars just pick one. This year, I don't think they could possibly. Like there has to be at least a couple in there. But I actually think maybe overall as a film, Judas and the Black Messiah might be as strong or stronger. So because that has been peaking, it hasn't been getting everything, but it got PGA. And it's going to win Best Supporting Actor. It looks like that's one of the safer bets at this point, because this year is weird. I'm not going to say it's guaranteed going down the road, but right now that looks like a pretty secure win, and it could carry a lot on that ride with it. Again, Writers Guild too, Producers Guild, and people just seeing it as voting started. That's in a good position. I think Sound of Metal is also probably up there, and then probably Ma Rainey's and The Father. I think News of the World at first seemed like this film that would just be so much like middle of the plate, prestigious movie, prestigious director, Tom Hanks stars, generally well reviewed. Like I thought this was going to be your kind of like, just, your kind of, and this movie too. But it really hasn't picked up anything. Like it's gotten a few nominations here or there, got a bunch of nominations at Critics' Choice, but didn't win any of them, even for Helena Zengel in the younger acting category. It didn't do well at BAFTA, at least in top tier categories, despite Paul Greengrass being very popular with BAFTA. So that seems like it's not happening.
I love
Five Bloods, I agree, is not happening.
News of the World was one of my top 5 of the year. I could still see the Oscars going with that as one of the 10, if there is 10, there may be 8 or 10.
I could see it being a possible contender.
I could see it getting in some below the line categories too.
Yeah.
I do think that Helena Zingel's chances have gotten smaller over the past couple weeks. Like, she didn't even win Young Actor Actress at Critics' Choice, which was a shocker to me. I mean, I love the little Minari boy, and he gave one of the best speeches ever. Zaki, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, I mean, I think that what hurt News of the World was it's a victim of this distribution model that has been forced upon us by the pandemic. Because I think that had News of the World opened in theaters, it could have been a big populist box office hit in the same kind of vein
of a moneymaker. Yeah,
like Ford v Ferrari. Like, that was a movie that made some money, and that helped its chances with the Academy, I think. And so I feel like in a more traditional year, News of the World would have been a bigger contender, just because it would have had like the box office receipts to go along with it.
I feel that way about a couple of films this year. Like, I remember, when I saw The Prom, and it was never like a huge Oscar contender. It's more like a lightweight entertainment. But like, it seemed like the kind of film like, oh, this would have been $100 million holiday movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's just fun, and it's light, and it's meaningful to a certain degree, and it's just like, it felt like a movie that would have gotten more traction. Like, that's the kind of movie I could have seen happening at the SAG Awards for ensemble, like that big, ensemble cast sort of thing. So yeah, I do think that hurts a lot. I also think that films like that, The Prom and News of the World, play better on a big screen, probably because so much of their appeal is visual and technical. So yeah, like, meanwhile, films that play really well at home, like A Trial of the Chicago 7, a courtroom drama, an intimate family drama like Minari, revenge thriller like Promising Young Woman that's not like big on effects or anything like that. Those are rising to the top, and maybe that's also another reason why *To Five Bloods* hasn't been, because there's a big splashy war movie that's not getting in, even in like the craft categories a lot of times, that the big splashy war movie would.
I think you're right. I mean, it could be a similar kind of thing that's hurting Mank as well, right? Because, these are movies that were made for the big screen. The Five Bloods, especially. I mean, I remember when Spike started making it, the day after winning his first Oscar, and I say first because I'm going to keep saying that he'll win more Oscars than just that one. He was intending it to be a kind of like Lawrence of Arabia, Apocalypse Now, like, see it on the biggest screen possible. I hope one day that it will be, once theaters are fully reopened. Maybe they'll play it at the Egyptian and I can see it there. Same thing with Mank. But, I think it is a movie like Nomadland, which does have a lot of scale and scope in terms of the vistas that it's photographing and all of that. It is at its core a very intimate character study. Minari is a very intimate character family drama, right? Those movies, again, they both have a lot of visual style and a lot of scope, but they do play better in these sort of intimate settings than something like The Five Bloods or Mank. So I think you're onto something there. Like, that might be the reason why, I think we're all predicting those two movies maybe as our best picture frontrunners, if I'm not mistaken.
I still have Minari. I think Minari is going to get a boost when, if I'm right, when we're all right, when it wins the SAG Award for ensemble and possibly supporting actress. But I really think it's down to two. I think it's Nomadland or Minari for best picture. And it seems like everyone in our prediction center is picking Nomadland to win the Oscar. So that's why I'm kind of being different. I want to go my own way until maybe I'll switch over, the day before the Oscars. We'll see. But I haven't gotten one right in a while, so I really want to get it right this year.
Yeah, it's tricky. I think it's a three-way race. I think Nomadland, Minari, and Trial of the Chicago 7. I think Trial of the Chicago 7 is still in it. Marcus, like you were saying, it's gotten the top nomination, one of the only 3 films to get the top nomination to all these 3 groups so far. And I feel like I don't sense all the passion for it. Like, it's like it hasn't been getting a whole bunch of texts, and it's been missing here and there. but like that could be your kind of weird consensus-y Green Book kind of movie, although I think it's a more effective movie than Green Book. But but like in a similar vein, like white men solve historical injustice kind of way, when you have all of these other, like you have a movie about like a woman on the frontier like Nomadland, and a Korean family like Minari, and it feels like a lot of the dynamics that were at play in the Green Book year, when the envelope opens and you're like, her. And so like I still feel like Trial of Chicago 7 has that avenue. It has a shot at SAG, could win the Producers Guild. Who knows if the Producers Guild will go for something smaller.
I was going to say, I mean, looking at this list of 10 of the PGA, I could totally see Trial winning there, because it's a movie that has been long in development. And it's gone through many different directors, including Steven Spielberg and Paul Greengrass, and I think Ben Stiller as well. So it's got a history, and I could totally see that being the PGA winner over something like Nomadland or Minari, which those kinds of small scale indie dramas don't tend to do well at the Producers Guild. So, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, but yeah, that's I just think it. Trial of Chicago 7 is that kind of film that, with a certain segment of and a certain class of Oscar voters, that's it's not going to be everybody's number one, but I can see it ranking high for a lot of people. A little bit like Spotlight too. It has a similar feel to that as well.
It does. You're right.
So I do think like we could be in the middle of the Roma push for like Nomadland, and I think like Roma, Nomadland's probably winning director no matter what happens in picture.
Yeah, I think
it's very hard to imagine Chloe Zhao losing that.
Chloe's a lock for the Best Director Oscar, and she keeps winning screenplay awards too, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk
and
about.
She could win for producing and editing, although probably won't win for editing.
Let's talk about Best Director now. We know the 5 from DGA, but historically the 5 don't always match up. I think it's only been 5 times out of like 70 years where they've matched up 5 for 5. So which of these 5, Chung, Fennell, Fincher, Sorkin, or Zhao, will most likely be snubbed, and who would they be replaced by? I don't know, because I may just go with these 5. I think all 5 of these are strong. I guess Emerald Fennell seems a little on the weaker side because she doesn't have the name recognition of like a David Fincher or an Aaron Sorkin. So if I were to take one of these out for my Oscar picks, I would probably take her out, but I don't know who I would replace her with. Maybe Spike Lee?
I'm chomping at the bit to get in here.
Say that again?
I'm chomping at the bit to get in here because I've got some thoughts.
All right, well, let's go to Daniel then. Daniel?
All right.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, what Emerald Fennell does have is she has this like flashy directorial debut, right? Like we've seen people like Greta Gerwig or Jordan Peele get nominated for movies that had this that were very stylishly directed, right? Very much like auteur kinds of first films, so she has that going for her, and she also has the fact that like Promising Young Woman has been consistently showing up everywhere, including at like the Golden Globes. I actually think if there's somebody who's weak, it's Sorkin, just because, he's better known as a screenwriter. And also his movie is not, it's well directed, but it's in that kind of like Peter Farrelly with Green Book kind of vein, It's not as flashy directorially as Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman. Now, who gets replaced? I want it to be Spike Lee. It could be Spike Lee. It could be Darius Marder, as I said before. It could be Shaka King for Judas and the Black Messiah. It would be so interesting if 2 of Spike Lee's NYU students got in and he didn't. I hope that they.
Okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be like a proud dad, right? But I could, Regina King is the one that I think a lot of people feel would get nominated, but the fact that she didn't get into the DGA 5 makes me think that, it's a lot less likely for the director's branch of the Academy to recognize her than it would be for the DGA. Because let's remember, like, Ben Affleck, Bradley Cooper, Denzel Washington, all big movie stars who directed films that got nominated for Best Picture and even won Oscars, did not get nominated. I know I just said that Greta Gerwig and Jordan Peele did get in, but again, those movies were phenomenons. Greta Gerwig
had narratives.
They had narratives. Greta Gerwig had a lot of indie cred. Jordan Peele directed the most talked about movie of the year. So, it was less likely that they were going to miss. Regina King does have a narrative around her, and the fact that, like, no woman of color has ever been nominated for directing, but also they're checking that off their list with Chloe Zhao. That shouldn't be a hindrance to her getting in. It's silly that we talk about it in these terms, but that a lot of the voters are thinking about it that way. So she could get nominated. I'm just not betting on it. So, I mean, that's my thoughts. Right now, I'm going to stick with Spike Lee.
Okay.
But I could see it being, I think Darius Marder or Shaka King feel like the most likely to replace it.
So you have Sorkin being snubbed and Spike Lee getting in currently. I mean, we can still change. Everyone, please go to Gold Derby. Keep updating and changing your predictions. Daniel, what about you? Do you think it's 5 for 5, or are you going to replace someone in your picks?
I think it could be 5 for 5. I haven't been predicting Aaron Sorkin for a while. I wasn't sure if he'd get in at the Directors Guild, and he did, and that makes me think he's a little bit stronger, but I still think he's the most vulnerable. But who replaces him is the tricky one. I think I've been predicting Regina King for a while, but that film and her as a director haven't been showing up consistently. So that's a tough one. And also, cynically speaking, yes, not only are they going to have the woman of color box checked with Chloe Zhao, but they're going to have, this will be the first year multiple women are nominated for Best Director, adding Emerald Fennell now, who looks stronger because of the DGA nomination. So, like, it would still be amazing for an Oscar category for Best Director for the first time in history to be majority female. But I feel like, the other female, because being a female director is such, and being a lauded and award-winning female director is such a rarity, that having 2 other female directors who are kind of outpacing her in terms of like what they've been getting awarded with so far is probably the biggest hindrance to her. So but then who gets it instead? Like, I could see like a weird Pavel Pawlikowski situation where they reach real far down and deep and go with someone like who hasn't been getting in, like Zach, you said, Shaka King for Judas and the Black Messiah, or Darius Marder, or even a Thomas Vinterberg who got in at the BAFTAs for directing in that little panel. But still, he got in there, and the film did well overall. Like, it got a Best Foreign Film and a Best Screenplay nomination, and those categories were not decided by the juries. So we know that there's industry affection for that film. This could go in so many weird ways. Like, I mean, I wouldn't totally rule out like whatever gets that last nomination slot being the only nomination for whatever film that is. It's just gonna be so weird. It's like suddenly, like, you got Kelly Reichardt for First Cow. Like, why not?
Things like that have happened before,
Yeah. The David Lynch effect. I don't know if it's happened since David Lynch, but I could see that happening. But
we have seen that
it's hard to tell. Like, it drops off real fast in terms of strong contenders, in terms of what we've seen from awards so far.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. That's our ramblings about director and picture after the DGA and PGA nominations. We will be meeting again probably in a week or so to talk about some of the acting categories. But do you guys?
I think we're going to be meeting in a week to talk about the Oscar nominations.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Do you guys want to talk real fast about your 4 winners who you think will win the 4 acting races at the Oscars?
Daniel, please go first because I'm going to base my predictions off of what you say.
Yeah, I mean, actor and supporting actor at the Oscars feel fairly solid right now. Chadwick
Locked
Boseman and
in.
Daniel
They're locked
Kaluuya.
in. Yeah.
I wouldn't go as far as to say 100% locked. Probably
100%. I'm calling it.
I'd say Chadwick is at 97 and Daniel Kaluuya is at about 85. And if Daniel Kaluuya wins SAG and wins BAFTA, then that number will keep going up. So I'm going with those two on the male side. Best Actress is so all over the place, but seeing how much strength there is for Promising Young Woman across the board, I still think that's Carey Mulligan. And supporting actress, oh God. Can I write someone in? I don't like Olivia Colman missed BAFTA. Amanda Seyfried missed SAG. Glenn Close is in Hillbilly Elegy. Maria Bakalova is in a movie that seems like the least Oscar-y movie ever made. Jung, potentially, I'll probably actually move her up because she's gotten in the most consistently. She missed the Golden Globe nomination, but that's not a huge hurdle. That's no one in common with the Academy. So I'm actually now I'm probably going to move her up in the first place tentatively until we see every other award go to 7 different contenders who it'll be someone different every time.
All right, Zach, who are your 4?
Well, like Daniel, I think that actor and supporting actor seem to be pretty close to locked up. Daniel Kaluuya.
They're locked.
Never say never, right? Like
especially when you're being recorded on camera and we can use this to embarrass you later.
Exactly.
I'll just delete it.
Right. He's going to edit out the part where he says locked. Daniel Kaluuya, I think, is pretty much as Judas and the Black Messiah continues to ascend. Etch his name into the statuette. Chadwick Boseman, I think, is sewing this up as well. Actress, I'm sticking with Carey Mulligan. Even though she missed BAFTA, I think that if she wins SAG, and Promising Young Woman, performs as well as we think it's going to in terms of nominations, I think she could still win. Although I would look out for anybody else who's nominated, pretty much. And then supporting actress, stats tell us that it should be between Maria Bakalova and Jung because both of them are up at SAG and BAFTA and could quite possibly win there, either one of them. Maria Bakalova has got this newcomer narrative, but she's also in, like you said, Daniel, the most un-Oscar-y movie ever made. But I mean, she's still got a narrative, and she's so likable and charming. I could see people voting for her. Jung is in a movie that could very well win Best Picture, so I wouldn't count her out. This year is so weird that maybe Glenn Close will be Marcia Gay Harden and just win without winning anywhere else.
Can you write that article? That I think you could be right, but my pick for that one for supporting actress is Jung. I think she's going to win BAFTA too. Just like her character is basically the Alan Arkin character from Little Miss Sunshine to the T, and he won those 2 after losing SAG. And did he lose the Globe?
He did. Eddie Murphy won both of those, and then Arkin won BAFTA. So
look out for Olivia Colman in Norbit's subsequent movie film to knock her out of the contention.
I have her winning supporting actress. Lead actress, I'm just going to go with Carey Mulligan. I think this BAFTA snub was a fluke, a very strange fluke. I think maybe they got her confused with Vanessa Kirby. So yeah, I'm going to go with those 2, and then the actor races are locked, so there's no point to discuss them. Anyways,
until they both get snubbed on Oscar nominations morning, because this is the weirdest Oscar race ever.
And it should be, It's a pandemic year. If this was all really steady as she goes, same winners everywhere, it would feel so disingenuous to this weird ass year that we've all had. So I'm glad it's a little bit of a mess.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will see you on March 15th after the Oscar nominations are announced. That means you'd have less than a week to make your picks at Gold Derby. You can also predict all of the Guild Awards, BAFTA, SAG is coming up. The Grammys are on Sunday, right, Daniel? So people need to hurry and make their final picks for that as well. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon.